Yeah, it's literally that's what they were doing in the summer. So it's like some reels
Super spot. So it's like fucking. You fucking wallet.
Hey, you good?
You okay?
You good?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, road. Yeah.
Can't see it.
Yeah.
Chance for a set of Delkins, 3. Do you want to go? 3. Come back down, yeah? They come completely blank, the same as the forms do, and then you just add the flavours. They've had our... What's that? Yeah, they've actually got pineapple on it. Oh, yeah. That's sweet corn. Like you say, if you use Halo a lot, then you can just put that in. The only thing with... Most people here today have been quite honest and just said, don't overcook it. Yeah, you've got clear areas, anybody else want to use this? Scan the QR code, put in details, it's very, very simple.
basket was a little bit more. Just gonna keep pushing it further in the business back out. In the business back out.
Anyway,
It's old matey boy.
I've spent like 800 quid on it.
Sorry.
I've got that jacket up top.
Yeah, just we still walk down. QR code on the back.
Can I help? Yeah. No, I just want to check this.
Have you got that one? The one nearest to us. The one that's crashing. I've spoken the guy.
If it's, we wouldn't have it on here, it would be that way.
But these guys say, man, they're coming with you.
Let me
No, that's good, thank you.
Way over. I thought the line was
Clever, isn't it?
it went straight over. Like.
That's all right. Sorry.
I'll see what you come up with. What? Still boiling.
Think of the way for that. Yeah, probably.
Small piece, mate.
How many good?
just another 4 will take 5 in total.
Well, you sorting out, no. Sorry, buddy.
That's okay.
You want to try pack?
Not the slow bell one, just the normal ones.
Oh, right, just the normal one. Let's okay. Bear with us. That's all right. Nick, where's the normal PVA, not the slow bell?
They'll all be in the same box. They're in individual bags. Just all be in the same box. They're in like bigger bags.
I've already got some. We want another. I was hoping I could buy them.
You got them?
Hello everyone. Right, can you hear it? Can you hear us all right? Yeah. Speak a bit louder, Tom.
That's a lot of people. This is actually posted as a Monster Carp Q&A, but obviously we've got Reedy up here now as well. Is there many of you that have listened to the Uncut podcast that we've been doing recently? Can you show of hands?
Hands up, you watched. Oh, look at that.
That's good. So we're going to do a Q&A, that's better. We're going to do a Q&A between us all. For you guys that have watched it, I don't know if anyone's got a question for Spooner.
Who wants to ask me about any fish I might or might not have caught? It's getting a bit of a joke, isn't it? All right, hang on, let's just try something. There's a few more people here. I did a talk at the Sandown show, and obviously, for those that haven't watched it, I get a lot of grief that I've never caught a UK 50. So...
You still not caught one?
No, I still haven't caught one. Can we have a show of hands for people that have caught a UK 50? Alright, quite a lot. Let's move on. Well done to everyone that's got their hand up. Really pleased for you.
So we've got John down here. He's going to walk around with another mic, I think. Have you got another mic? So
Okay.
I'm just going to use mine, but anybody that does ask a question as well is going to get a free Monster Carp sticker pack. So there's something in it for you to have the confidence to put your hand up and ask a question.
So who's going to ask the first question? Hands up, please. There we go, young man at the front.
Try and ask some questions, maybe some technical ones where we can actually help you guys catch more carp. It's obviously really nice for us that we can come here and speak to everyone, but it's the best thing for us if we can actually help you catch more carp next time you go fishing. So maybe some technical questions would be good.
What's your favourite lake around here?
Favourite lake around here? I'll probably go with one that I've fished a little bit recently. It's a syndicate called Frying. He's having a mad Wiltsy. Have you tried to teach him how to use the sound? Yeah, Frying Fishery is a beautiful lake that a guy built himself years ago, or dug himself years ago, so that he could have somewhere, I think, for his son to go on like jet ski type of thing. And that's then developed into a beautiful, beautiful fishery. Yeah, I'd go with there for this area.
Mine's pretty obvious. I fished a place called Walthamstow Reservoirs for my whole childhood, and I've actually been there 3 times this month as well. And on the way here, I come off the M25 and the M11 splits 2 roads, and I nearly by default just went towards Walthamstow because I've been there so much, and that's probably only half an hour from here. And I think that's an amazing breeding ground for good anglers. There's lots of different types of fishing there. You've got lakes that from 80 acres with 12 carp in that if you catch one from a year, you'll be doing really well, all the way to a 25-acre lake with 1,500 carp in where you can catch 10 in a day. You learn how to cast really well, you learn that you need to be on the fish, and it's so built up around there now, it's not really sort of an urban sort of look. It's magical fishing now, I think. I still love it, so that's my favourite place.
We jumped in my grave a little bit there because I probably would have gone with Walthamstow as well, having done a lot of fishing there myself. And as Tom says, it's an open access water, loads of different lakes there, any ability to go and have a chance to catch. But I'll throw another one out there.
A couple.
Oh, right, yeah. Have you had one in January? Have you had a carp in January, by the way?
No, no, I haven't. Thank you.
No, yeah. But yeah, I would say if I chuck another one out there that is much closer to here, especially if you're going to get a bite, it'd probably be Blasford Hill, somewhere where I've just recently been and had a fish from. Mega.
He has not stopped going on about this one bite he's had.
I think we've got loads of pictures of actually. We could just, no, I don't think we have. No, but that is an amazing lake. Like I say, day ticket, full of carp. Any ability to go there and catch them. So for me, it'd probably be that.
Brilliant, thank you very much. Hands up for the next question, please. Where's John? Over here, I think, John. Find the guy with the red hat on.
Guy with a hand up, mate.
What is your favourite ever episode of Monster Carp you filmed and why?
Oh, you can't talk about this one, really. So the question was, what is our favourite episode of Monster Carp that we've ever filmed?
Can I go first?
You go first.
I'll pick one that we filmed together, and it's romantic, so our first one. It's not Italy. My favourite one was Salagoo, actually. It was the first one we filmed after Ali left, rest in peace.
Judas.
And there was obviously a lot of pressure on us to go there and to do it with Ali, because Ali always really led the show. So there was a huge amount of pressure, and we were fishing a very difficult lake in Salagoo. The fishing itself was hard. It was hard to be there because you couldn't even put a brolly or bivvy up to sleep under, so we were very tired. But the lake itself was absolutely unbelievable. And like 4 days in, a massive weight off of our shoulders, Neil caught a 60-pounder.
Yeah, sorry, can I just ask, how many 60s have you had from Salagoo?
No. So it was partly that it was just an amazing carp, like a fish of a lifetime, really, and it was the pressure off sort of scenario at the lake, filming the monster carp for our first one, and we could drive away from there knowing that we had a really, really good show, and we were so stressed about doing that without out there. So that was an amazing week's fishing.
We were so stressed, in fact, you should have seen Doug's hairline before we went full. My favourite one, I'll actually go with one with all 3 of us when Al was still with us. It's another one of those massive lakes in France, and that is Lake Carcès. We actually spoke about it in the podcast with really having a very different experience of the place. But I think for the start of the trip, Dovey and I were fishing kind of opposite each other, fishing out to this same central zone. And it wasn't just the fact that we were catching carp from range, from a massive water, but it was the quality of the carp. I think probably the best we've ever caught, or right up there. Al was having a very different trip at the time. He was down one of the arms and the carp just weren't there, but he bided his time. He managed to get into an area to fish a similar zone and caught probably the best carp we've ever seen on the bank. He had a 70-pound wild lake carp that was just unreal. Well done, Al. I think that's the only one he caught on Monster Carp.
Well, I obviously wasn't in any of them, but what I will just say my favourite episode would probably be the Cassian episode, which is obviously...
Yeah, what happened?
I think mainly because watching it is from the outside, you could clearly see that was not on the cards to happen. So when something like that happens, it's a massive shock.
Sorry, mate, what happened? Just remind me.
I think you caught £70 mirror, I believe. £70?
Yeah, I flew the £70 mirror, but yeah, it was incredible place.
Yeah, incredible. And I think first night?
Yeah, first full, you can't do night, first full day.
Don't try to catch him out there. Yeah, first full day, and I think because it just wasn't, I don't know, you would have dreamed of that happening, but the chance of it happening is so slim. You could see everything's about the story, and I think when something like that happens so early on, the buzz is quite real to witness. So I think that's a really good episode.
The common theme there is all of them are them massive lakes in France. When you're out of your comfort zone and things are a bit trickier, it makes the rewards all the sweeter.
Yeah, that's when carp fishing's good. Not when you've got the hang of it and you know what's going on. It's enjoyable doing it, but it's actually the figuring it out or feeling like you're out your depth that's the fun bit. So yeah, them places in France are amazing.
Great question, thanks mate. Have we got another hand? Go ahead, please.
Loads now, no?
We've got loads. They all know they're getting a Monster Cup sticker pack. That's what it is.
What's the biggest fish you've caught out of you two?
Really, really good question. That is a good question, isn't it, Spoons? Yeah, giving forward sticker packs.
All right, I'll start this off. I get asked all the time, who's the better angler, you or Dovey? And I'm very honest and say it's Dovey. And I don't like praising him too much, but he's the most naturally gifted angler I've had the misfortune of spending far too many hours with.
That's cute.
Yeah, backhanded, wasn't it? But you soon realise when someone's that good, you take note of what they're doing. And I'm not too proud to say that I've copped him. And very quickly, I had a bigger PB, both mirror and common.
Very annoying for many years, but now it's not the case. I actually don't know what my PB is. It's 74...
74.5.
74.5. And what's your Spoon?
It feels like I'm sort of talking it down. I've got a 72-pound 15 ounce that is still a bit smaller than...
Yeah, but you try, go and practice and then come back and...
How many 70s you had?
I actually don't know.
2, I've had 3, right? I'm just putting it out there. Really?
I've had one 70-pounder. You thought I was going to say none then, didn't you? All right, yeah, one 70-pounder.
Even a blind squirrel finds a nut sometimes, mate. Anyway, can we get another question, please? Oh, look at the hand. What's your favourite rig and hook bait and why? Favourite rig and hook bait and why? Randy, do you want to go first?
I would say favourite rig is probably nowadays going to be the spinner rig. Purely because it's fishing. Everything about you is rubbish. You know, it's even your microphone. I would say probably the spinner rig. Purely because you can take it absolutely anywhere. You can cast it out, you know you're fishing 100% of the time, every time. Whether you fish it with a wafter or a pop-up, it's the perfect presentation in my eyes. And hook bait choice, I would say, is pretty hard to beat a pineapple pop-up. Gooed up in some form of isotonic or pineapple.
What did you say? Yeah, the problem is that they've both copied my rig, so No, I think we're all probably going to say a similar thing. For years, obviously, we used like just a normal hair rig or a pop-up rig or a hinge stick. But we've all ended up at a similar spot, which is a spinner rig with a stiff hook link on a helicopter setup. And it means that you don't have to tie rigs ever, because you literally just change the hook and put a new hook bait on. And you never get any tangles, and it converts loads of pickups. So I find it very difficult not to put a spinner rig on anymore. I just catch so many fish on it, and I catch so many fish on it, and I just feel like if I put anything else on, it's
Tom, just hold it away from your forehead a bit, I think.
Cheers then. I find it very difficult to put anything else on, and as a hook bait, I use a yellow pop-up like, I don't know, 80% of the time. In the summer, sometimes when you're feeding a lot of bait, you want to use exactly what you're putting on the floor. So I'll use like a match the hatch style hook bait, but in general, a spinner rig on a helicopter setup with a 13 or 14 mil pineapple pop-up.
We're all pretty much the same on that. We do play around with flavours of hook baits. For me, for a long time, it's been an isotonic pop-up or isotonic wafter, but just recently, there's a new goo that came out last year. We have the benefit of using these goos before they come out, see how they react, see...
We're running a couple of minutes late, so I'll keep the introduction short.
See what sort of catch rate we get on them. And probably the only one of recent years that I've had a similar response to the isotonic was the Pango. And I mentioned it to Dovey, he went on to catch quite a few. I know Pecky caught a load on it in the spring. That for me at the minute is probably my go-to.
Yeah, I'll agree actually. Like I said, I use pineapple pop-ups all of the time, but Spooner said to me, that Pango's good, you know, and I was like, I'll try it, put it out next to my pineapple, so I ended up catching 3 on the Pango and none on the pineapple. So I thought, maybe it's the left-hand side of the spot. Reeled in one of the other rods, put it the other side of it, and it's still the Pango that went. So there is definitely times when that Pango is better than anything else out there, so I'd get a pot.
Hands up for another question, please. John's on his way round, look. Paying attention now.
What rig did you use to get your biggest fish, and why do you think it works so well?
What rig did we use to catch our biggest fish? Mine was definitely on a spinner.
Mine was on a spinner as well, yeah.
Do you remember I made that change right at the end of that match? So we've been fishing with little pop-ups or little wafters, fishing at, was it 35 wraps? Was it 35 wraps, 140 yards?
You were about 24.
Yeah, a little bit shorter. We were coming to the end of the match to beat Dovey in the match, which Dovey does not talk about so much, that once again I did beat him. I basically needed to either break my common PB or my mirror PB. Almost minutes to go, Dovey said, the next fish is going to finish the match. And the only change I made, we'd fed so much maize throughout the days that we'd been there and only fished a boilie hook bait that I put 2 grains of plastic on. I'm a real believer, if there's a part of that mix that you think they might be eating more, then as Dovey touched on before, matching that can get you more bites. So I put 2 grains of maize on, had 1 bite, 72.15, and match winner.
You do have good form in the matches for a terrible angle. It's a bit mental, really.
That's winds you up even more.
No, mate, it doesn't. You're good at matches. It's the relentlessness of you. Quite impressive. Right, next question, we'll get off that.
What do you prefer, a common or a mirror?
What do we prefer, a common or mirror? I actually prefer commons now. For the last however many years, I've always preferred big mirrors, but I think like a 60 or 70 pound common is a really, really special fish. I think if I was to catch a mid-20, I'd prefer a mirror, but if I was to catch a really big carp, I'd prefer like a perfect common, just because they're so rare. I would say I prefer anything.
No, I would say they all can. Probably a big mirror for me, I think. A big old mirror. I think they look really, really nice, but I'm not too bothered. Big old commons look nice as well.
Yeah, I'm with Reed. I still prefer the uniqueness of a big mirror. Dubby's right, £70 commons are an impressive creature. Have you got any pictures of your £70 commons?
One day. Okay, next question.
What do you think is the best hook?
Best hook, a crank size 4. I really do believe that is the best carp fishing hook out there. And when you get, I've used them for years, and we've used them for how long? For 10 years nearly. Do you use them as well? Adam uses them as well. And then you get people like Tom Maker join Korda, and very quickly all that he's got on is a size 4 crank. You seem to get more bites on them because of the offset, and you lose far less fish than you do with any other hook, because it's got an offset in it and it's got a big point, and that point's really accessible to get the bite in the first place. So I very rarely use anything else.
Yeah, the only thing I'd add into that, if any fishing that I'm doing where I'm putting rigs out on the deck, then it's a crank size 4. But there are times when a different pattern is necessary for the type of fishing you're doing. So for instance, if I'm fishing zigs, then I prefer a choddy hook, so I like the outturned eye. If I'm fishing on the surface, then a mixer hook, because they're much finer wire, super sharp, and obviously much smaller. But 90 to 95% is done with a crank size 4. About you, Reedy? You're the same, Reedy?
Yeah, I'd say I am. 99% of my fishing is probably done with a crank now. I was using a similar pattern of hook long before I come to Korda, but since I've been here, I've used mainly the crank, either on bottom baits or pop-ups. But the only thing I will say is, with that offset, obviously sometimes when you're fishing on really clean ground, and if you want to use something like the crank in a Kamakura, obviously the point can sometimes not be facing the right way, so you just have to be a bit mindful of that. But if anything's soft, I'll have a Kamakura on in a crank pattern all the time. But as Neil says, don't ignore the other patterns. For zigs, I always use a wide gape. I played about using crank choddies on the zigs, but I just don't think they sit quite right. I think a wide gape sits slightly offset. I think obviously because of the offset and the weight distribution, just doesn't sit straight in the water. So I think a wide gape in a size 6 or 8 on the zigs is perfect, but anything else, you ain't going to go wrong with a crank.
Yeah, good. Next question. Loads now, this is great.
Your recommendation, I'm going to go to Walthamstow. What bait am I bringing?
Bait at Walthamstow?
Yeah, what bait am I doing?
Are you what reservoir are you going on? On the 1, on the 2, you don't know? Okay, so the number 1, if you're fishing the number 1 reservoir, you've got essentially got an island in front of you, and you've got a lot more fish in there. If I'm fishing the 1, I'll fish like a mixture of bait, like sweet corn, 10 millers, maybe hemp. So some cell, sweet corn, and just some hemp, however you cook it. But on all of the other reses, because I'll be moving around quite a lot, I tend not to like establish a spot and don't spawn. And because of that, I'll always use boilers. So I use, for, I don't know, nearly 10 years on there, I use cell. 15mm cell or 18mm cell out of a throwing stick or a catapult, depending on how far you're fishing. And then I'll have one bait on just exactly what you're using out of the bag. So an 18 or a 15mm cell bottom bait with a little bit of cork in it, just to balance it out. And then on the other rod, or the other rods, I'd have a pineapple pop-up. But you don't need to put too much bait out of them, so it's more making sure that you're on the fish. If you cast out, you get a relatively hard drop and you feel the lead hit the bottom, and you've got a presented cell or pineapple out there. If you're on the bulk of the fish, you'll catch carp.
Yeah, I've got nothing to add that is any use because I've never fished it.
Next question.
What kind of advice would you give to new young anglers coming in?
Young anglers. Don't get obsessed with sponsorship. That's what seems to happen. Is that young anglers, I think, see us on Instagram or doing the films, wherever it is, and their only goal is to try and get a sponsorship. And that's not, you want to go fishing to catch fish and get really, really good at it if you love doing it. And if you love doing it and you get really good at it, we will find you. You know, it's not about keep pushing to try and get a deal here and there, because it's a small industry and I don't think it's a very good look, like trying to get stuff off of someone. You know, go out, enjoy the fishing. Don't worry about the tackle and everything else. Just go out and fish, I would say, and enjoy it.
Yeah, great shout, Tom. That is the question we probably get asked the most through social media. My advice would be to pick a lake that's well stocked. You want to be going somewhere where getting bites is a regular occurrence, so that you can get used to playing fish, get used to handling fish, tying your own rigs, all the bits that come with the stuff that will help you progress through. Ultimately, to learn, you need to be getting bites. Some of these commercial carp fisheries that are more match orientated can be a great place to go and chuck out your first solid bag or your first spinner rig and get used to hearing your bite alarms going off. It's one of the best things in the world.
Yeah, I would second both what you've said, I think, and also don't get obsessed with big fish straight away, because it is all about the journey, it's all about the learning, and I think if you just go out now and fish somewhere that's full of big fish or somewhere where there is some big fish, and that's all you're there for, I think, as Spooner was saying, the more you don't catch, the less you enjoy it, and I think once you go out and you're catching a load of fish, you can progressively catch more and more, the fish get bigger and bigger, and that buzz of catching your first 20, 25, 30, 35 is amazing. You only get to do that once. So just going somewhere and catching a 40-pound carp and being one and done, you really are missing out on a really lovely part of the journey, and being able to just gradually move yourself up and learn how to hold these carp as they get bigger and bigger.
The audacity of the man that can stand there saying that and relentlessly giving me grief for not catching a 50. You do not know what you're talking about, do you?
You have sort of done the journey. You have had the odd 20.
And I'm still enjoying it.
And you're still enjoying it, yeah. Right, next question.
What's your favourite fish you've ever caught and your favourite lake you've ever fished?
Great question. We actually did we cover this on a podcast? We did not long ago, didn't we? Or one of our favourite fish, didn't we? Yeah. For me, without doubt, it was my first 30-pound carp. I think that, as I say, I covered this on the podcast. As I just alluded to just now, you only get one time at these milestones, and I remember back when I caught that, which was, Christ, early 1880s, I don't know, a long time ago. When I was really young, I remember just how massive that fish felt and how big it looked. Obviously nowadays we're very lucky, there's a lot of fish around 30 pound in a lot of these lakes, so I think we take them for granted a little bit sometimes, but back then it was a huge fish and that's lived with me forever, so it'd be my first 30 pounder for sure.
It is a huge fish.
Mine is a fish that I caught from Walthamstow actually. Like I said, there's lots of different lakes there, and one of them is 80 acres and got 12 carp in it. And I've fished that lake a lot over the years. I caught one out of it when I first fished there probably 15 years ago. But these fish are very, very difficult to catch. And I caught one of them, I think 3 years ago, a common called Patch. It was exactly the right moon phase, the right weather and everything, and I knew exactly where I needed to be. And it takes a lot for all of the planets to align on a lake like that, and then to eventually get the bite as well. So I've probably done, I don't know, 100 days in there without a bite. So when you eventually get that bite, and it's like the seal was the second biggest common in there, and I managed to get a picture. It's a shame really, I'm going to put it up here. A picture of that with the Lockwood Town in the background. That's a picture I wanted forever, and I've got it now. So that's probably my favourite picture I've caught.
Wasn't your first bite out of there though, was it?
No, I lost one the year before.
Mine, again, Reedy's right, we did cover it in a podcast recently, but, and we even mentioned it here, when we fished down at Lac de Saint-Cassien, it was an iconic lake that when I got into carp fishing, everything I was reading, people were going to fish it, so to get the chance to fish it in the first place was incredible, but then to have one bite in, did we do 10 days then? Yeah, one bite in 10 days, and it was probably the biggest fish in the lake at over 70 pound. That has to be the best fish I've ever caught.
Yeah. John, next question.
What's been your favourite moment while working for Korda?
Favourite moment working for Korda? Really saying, don't say me joining.
We weren't gonna.
It didn't even come to mind. My favourite moment working at Korda? That's a good question. Have you got one?
I'll go first. I think it was favourite moment, proudest moment, completely didn't see it coming. I've been at the company for, blimey, probably 3 years. My background is sales, that's why I got a job at Korda, not because of angling ability, as Tom will agree with. It was because of building a new sales team. I was doing the odd magazine feature with James Armstrong, and kind of out of the blue, I got a phone call from Dan one night. I can remember it, I was walking across Sainsbury's car park near where I live, I was with Sarah, and phone rang. Dan doesn't very often ring out of hours, so thought I might have done something wrong. And he turned around and said, you know, would you be my guest on Thinking Tackle next week, 3 nights at Bluebell? Because I didn't see it coming, but throughout all of my carp fishing, I'd watched every episode of Thinking Tackle. To be asked to be a part of that was, yeah, amazing, and very, very proud to sort of have appeared on it a few times.
Yeah, it's tough. We've got the best jobs in the world. Like working for Korda and being able to travel around all the time. We've had so many amazing fishing moments, and like even it's sentimental now, but like even in the office, it's amazing. We are literally like a massive family, so it's very, very hard for me to pick one thing. But I guess when I was made a director at Korda, it was probably a big moment for me, because I've literally I've worked there since I was like 15, 16 years old. I'm 36 now. So to be able to lead the company over the next 20 years is something really special to me. So probably that.
Well, obviously I've been the shortest time out of the 3. Been at Korda 2 years now. But I would say without doubt it would probably be making the first film for him earlier on last year. Like many of you here, Korda have been at the very, very top when it comes to creating content from way back when I was really young. So obviously
took a dip when you done that one, but
yeah, it's downhill now. It's all downhill now. But obviously I've watched them from a really young age. Obviously when Tom was really young, when Neil was really young, and obviously a little bit before that, and watched them all come up through the ranks, making amazing films. And I think I was working in the industry before, but never really thought that I would probably be in a Korda film. So I think, no, you didn't. So I think joining and then obviously now being frustrated in front of the cameras and creating content has been amazing for me, and a little bit of a lifelong dream, I guess, because you're watching it from afar, not really thinking it's going to happen, and then all of a sudden it happens. So for me, it'll be probably creating the first film.
Good question, that. Very good question. No one? Get a little girl with there with the Navitas happens. John.
What's the favourite lake what you've been to?
Favourite lake that we've been to? I think do you want to go? I don't know. I would say my favourite lake I've ever been to is a lake called Chantico, a Lac de Deux in France. It's 14,000 acres. So you can't actually imagine how big that is. It's very, very difficult to, even when we got there, we couldn't believe it. And it's a very, very difficult lake to fish. With it being so big, it's very hard to find the fish in the first place, and then you're fishing out further than you can imagine as well. So even at our level, where we've fished lots of different places, you still feel massively out of your depth there. And that's what we really enjoy doing now. We're actually going to go back one day, so I'm looking forward to going back, and hopefully we can catch more than the one we caught last time.
Yeah. No, I would say mine is going to be another water in Europe. It's going to be a water called Liège. I went there last year in the spring, and again, like Tom says, another huge expanse of water. It doesn't matter how much knowledge you've got or how much knowledge you think you've got. Once you turn up and start fishing a place like that, you quickly feel quite small, and having to suss it out on the go is really, really exciting. Obviously, the lakes we fish here in the UK, you've got a pretty good idea when you turn up what you need to do to make it happen. So whether that comes to finding the spots or working out what you need to do to catch the carp, but then you go to a place like that where you know absolutely nothing, you've only got 7 days to work it out, and when you do work it out, there isn't a buzz quite like that bite alarm going off. It's like being a kid again and it all happening for the first time. So yeah, it'll be Liège for me.
Yeah, I think I'll go with the lake that Tom mentioned, the first monster carp we did together when we went down to Salagoo. It wasn't just the lake itself, it's the fact that we were basically set up in the middle of a public beach. So you've got windsurfers, kite surfers, pedalos, swimmers, horses, aeroplanes, you name it. It was so different to anything else. But even the fishing, you'd go out in a boat, lower your rig like 120 yards out, but then you'd swim back out, snorkel down and lay your rig out, make sure the bait was laying right. It was so unique. But I don't know, I don't think we'll ever do that sort of fishing again. So that'll always be a special one.
All right, we've got 10 minutes left, so we'll probably get 3 more in, I reckon 2 more maybe. John? John's a bit slow today, sorry guys. Have a word with him, Monday.
Do you use a shot on the hook?
Oh, great question.
Controversial.
I'm going to be honest and say that I've seen the results, I've clearly seen the footage and how good it was, and I am yet to put one on. I've got them in my tackle box, but I still haven't given them a try. Really, I can sometimes be a little bit slow to try these things, a bit like the spinner rig, but I will definitely have a play this season coming.
Yeah, spoon is just a bit slow in general, I think. So I use something very similar. I use a spinner rig with a spinner hook, not a crank hook. It's just got a longer shank, and I'll put quite a big dollop of putty on the bend of the hook. So the bit of the bend is closest to the point. So it's essentially doing exactly the same thing as Dan did on the underwater. But I just find the putty easier to put on, and I sort of feel like it doesn't stick out as far. I have it probably slightly lighter than you would do on a shot on the hook. But as long as you've got that weight on the bottom of the hook, which swings the hook down when the fish picks up the bait, then it does the same job. So yeah, I use putty. It's the same thing, but not exactly.
No, I haven't actually used it yet, but I am definitely going to. Having done the underwater with Daryl and watching him put that on and instantly get a pickup after he'd just been dropped a load of times, it doesn't matter how confident you are in your rigs, stuff you're seeing will make you have a change. And I think what's going to probably happen to me this spring, I'll probably be not having a very good session, or I'll drop a fish, something will happen and that will make me try that for the first time. But I would definitely say it's a massive edge, and I know Tom's been using, like I say, the way he's been using it for ages, and it definitely makes a difference. But confidence is everything. If you're really confident in what you're doing, then I would say don't change anything. I would say if you want to try something new, that is definitely something that's worth trying.
Okay, another question? We've got one at the back.
What's the lake that you haven't fished at that you want to fish at?
It's an easy one for me. I really want to go to Lake Bled in Slovenia. Just looks incredible. I want that picture of the church in the background holding a carp, so that's on the bucket list.
Yeah, for me it's really easy as well. I really want to go to the obviously Tom's already mentioned that, the fact that they went there and made a film, and hoping to go back one day, so I shall probably do absolutely everything I can to somehow be involved in that trip when it happens, but yeah, be the for me.
I can't think of one. We've been to so many lakes. Watertake. Going there again. I'm trying to think of somewhere in the UK that I really want to. There are a couple of lakes in the UK that I want tickets for, but they're non-publicity. I can't think of one. I'm not sure. I'm lucky. We've been everywhere. Okay, another question.
What's the worst forfeit you've done between all three of you?
The worst forfeit? Having to fish with spoons for 8 years.
I did have a forfeit thrown at me for the season 2, episode 1 of Monster Carp. I've not only caught the least and the smallest, Dovey and Ali suddenly thought it'd be a great idea for me to get shot with paintballs. I don't know how that even came about, I still don't know.
I think Ali just made that up at the time.
Of course he made it up at the time. You! When you made me get paintball. We got asked what's the worst forfeit we've had to do, and I said, well, in Croatia you two shot me with paintballs for no reason. No reason. And I was dressed as a girl, yeah. So that's probably my worst, mate.
I'm trying to think something. The worst one I've done was in Spain when I lost the bucket throw. And it was at the beginning of the year, like was it Feb or March or something in Spain.
Feb.
And it was fishing really difficult because up in the mountains it had been snowing, and obviously when the snow melts, all of the snow water goes into the lake. So it was freezing, and I had to slowly walk into the lake up to my neck. And I've done a few ice baths now, so I could probably do it now, but at the time it was absolutely freezing.
Mine would be not so much a forfeit, but last year we made a film where I had to catch a 20, a 30 and a 40 pound carp, or I was going to have to give W 20 quid. And that really, really hurt because I was super confident I was going to be taking 20 quid off him. And to add insult to injury, I did actually catch the 30 pound carp after the time had run out. So
wasn't in the time though, was it?
Wasn't in the time. I still had to go back, and he's one of those people that when you have got to give him the money, he makes like a real big song and dance about it, makes sure everyone's about, sits himself down, gets himself comfortable, sort of
get all the camera crew in,
make sure it was getting filmed, and he took that 20 quid and then went and got himself a really lovely lunch to make sure I knew about it. So,
cheers for that, mate.
Yeah, it'll be that.
We'll do that again this year, actually.
We will do that again, and I'll win it back this time.
Okay, should we do last question?
What was your favourite fishing memory as a child?
A lot of favourites today. Favourite fishing memory as a child.
Okay, yeah, go. Mine would be, I used to go when I was really, really young, so probably about your age. How old are you? 12, yeah? Yeah, so probably, yeah, a little bit older than that, maybe like 13, 14. I used to go around with my uncle on the back of his motorbike fishing places that we probably shouldn't be going, which was great. And I remember we used to fish a place called Mitchell Priory, and you weren't allowed to fish it at night, but there's a little area of it that you could get to. I'm not condoning this, by the way. You can't go fishing place at night, you're not allowed, but there's a little area where you could get to on the side of the road and sort of get away fishing for a few hours before the ranger come and threw you off. And I remember one night we caught one of the real big carp in there, which back then would have been about 20 pounds, which today's money would probably be a 35, 45 pound carp maybe. So that was probably my best memory.
I think mine is actually winning the British Young Carp Angling Championships. I was like 15 or 16, I think, at the time, and really that was like the start of my career in fishing. And I didn't really know if I was any good because I was just sort of fishing on my own all the time. And then when you put yourself against other lads that are obviously the same age and everything, it's obviously nice to come out on top and win something like that. And I'm a competitive person anyway, so that's like a buzz for me.
Mine was a weird one. I remember being on holiday with my friend Terry in Great Yarmouth, and I've been to Latham's at Potter High. I'm still there now, tackle shop, and bought like a feeder setup. And we turned up to this lake that we just found. Terry's dad took us down there, and I tied a hook on float fishing, and I dropped it in the edge just to see if it was balanced. And the float buried. I'm like, it's too heavy. Lifted it up, 6 pound bream. PB at the time, absolutely loved it.
Bream as well, terrible. Thanks everyone, guys, for sitting down and listening to us. We're going to be over on the Korda stand in the middle. Please feel free to come and say hello, have a picture or ask any questions. So, cheers guys.
Thanks everyone.
£30 quid. That's good.
Yeah. Where'd you go? Oh, is that where you get it from?
Yeah.
start slightly off to show quality control. Every one of them has been hand-picked out at the roll.
I was just looking around.
You've got to run in the night, you're not going to remember who hit that.
Yeah. The good thing is we did a horseshoe across Elster. And that's what them young ones. You can also horseshoe cross. You can have them the other way round, so that when you pick the rod up, you press the button like that's almost like natural sort of thing. One-handed, you back your hand, hit the button, comes up. It's just a bit of getting used to.
Yeah, there's a lot of yeah, that's right.
So if you don't let me get a cold sheet for you, yeah? Want a bag, mate? Do one,
Yeah.
Better not. I got told the valleys were your t-shirts, so I saw that.
Right. Yeah, I'll be alright. No carp, thanks. No impact.
One of them? Yeah.
Go whatever you think, mate.
Roll up. Oh, he's got GoPro on.
Yeah.
The old GoPro on. Is that for security?
No, it's fun. Do we have a small any chance?
That's all I've got.
Oh, right.
Yeah, that's why they're that kind of price. 2 for $4.50. I've got PVA mesh.
I need bags.
You need bags.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're the only size. Chop them down.
Still too wide.
Yeah, a little bit wide. Some people, yeah, it's a funny size, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Depends
alright.
what you want to use it for. Yeah. Oh yeah, he knows best. That's right. Right, I've got more of those sonic bobbins down here. Sonic bobbins are there.
Oh, some seals I read through. Oh, where's so it doesn't matter, you don't have to use ours. So you can just fill it up with one bin if you want to. What do you mean? So that's not the liquid. That's it.
They sent it back.
Right, so that's half the problem. So you need to have it complete sealed.
You never really get a 330 mil anymore, do you?
Do you a decent fridge? I'll do that.
Yeah.
The trouble is I use 250 watt soap. Yeah,
ocular size.
I think it's sliding it in and out under the seat of the van.
Yeah.
I've never managed to get mine that cold.
It's very low. So it's 12 volt.
I'm recording all this on these. I love tech. Do they know this is all about an underwater series? No? Has anyone told you? You played some underwater shots. Okay, yeah, pause it. Right, here we go. So Deals on Wheels. Deals, wave. You came to actually. I met you last year here, didn't I? And I invited you to come and watch us while we started filming the brand new series of the Grand Fishing Adventure, which is all underwater, which followed on from the finale that we did well, it's almost, there's been no fishing, there was no fishing on the box in 2024 because my battery's 15%, I've got to take my glasses off, I'm not even joking. There's been no fishing on telly for a year, mainly because we've delayed this and delayed it because it's taken so long to produce because of the amount of underwater stuff. So what you're going to see today is some bits you may have seen on social, but some brand new content. And as I say, Dylan came to the show last year and I invited him down to come to Grenville when we were filming the new series. And he actually ended up coming on one of the worst days there. Everyone was upset, weren't they, mate? Frustrated, it was raining, and you were very patient. And I'm going to show you a clip because even you don't know what happens that day. So the first clip what I have here, some of you might have seen this, but this is something you can take into your own fishing because this is very relevant to what's happening out there today, this time of year. This was actually when we first started filming the series. A new character is also in this series called Rue Abbott. He's on our stand. He had his teeth made in Turkey, which loads of you in this audience have also probably had done. We're in Essex, aren't we? Who's got turkey teeth here? Come on, you absolute liars. There's loads of Rylands here. What's that? Rue? Where's Rue? Show us your teeth. Just come here, Rue. Show us them teeth. Look at these for a set of gnashers. They were made for telly. Anyway, this isn't Rue's rod, right? This is actually my rod, but this was at a lake called Chase Lakes, which is also owned by someone from Essex, Spencer. Lovely guy, invited us down. Lovely clear lake, loads of big fish in there, and also perfect because it's shallow. And I always say this time of year, around from that, almost from February, March, April, I always say go to shallow lakes because unless you want to fish zig rigs, am I echoing off this speaker by the way? No? Alright, sounded like I was. Unless you want to fish a lot of zigs, shallow lakes mean you're never far from them because they're cold-blooded creatures, so as soon as there's a bit of sun coming out, they're going to be straight up near the upper layers. So when you're doing an underwater film in March, the last thing you want to do is go somewhere deep because the likelihood of them ever being in front of an underwater camera in the daylight hours on the bottom feeding is very low. So it went to Chase Lakes, but it turned to be a quite cold snap. And this will show you some of the things we often don't. We're filming here with something called spy cam, so we're not watching this unfold live. We only get to review it after. Okay, which makes it all the more interesting because I know there's been comments, oh, you use a diver, you do this, but we're trying to find our own spin, something different to what's done before. And so we pull these cameras out and we watch it unfold afterwards. But here, you'll see on the bottom here what I call the buffet theory. You see maggots there, there's boilies, there's a bit of corn, there's some tiger nuts. And this particular little fish, and this is my hook bait, this is a bait orb packed with paste and soluble attractors, and then a little pop-up over the top.
riding a bit high when I watch it back. But these fish, if you watch this now, this fish was coming in very, look, it's just touching the bottom, but it never really eats anything. Here it's having a go at the maggots, a few exhaling there. That was on another day. So this fish is coming in on this spot quite regularly. This is us growing heavily. Pause it there. So one of the things with the spy cams is you end up watching the footage back thinking, God, how would I have caught that carp? Because it's obviously not feeding that hard. So we've gone through 3 or 4 days of little tweaks. You go to a big pop-up, just snatch it. But the interesting thing was these fish were almost going past where your pop-up would be, but not really eating the bottom up. So this is where I ended up going to the slip D with, that's a fake snail we sell now called an escargot. We did it with Enterprise Tackle, it's been out for years, but here, even the foam part, that's also soaked, obviously the Korda boys were up before, would have talked about goo, that's been soaked in almond goo for a long time, all my foam's soaked, it's got to be soluble, because what a lot of people don't realise, them fish can't detect oil unless they eat it. If you just buy a tub of pop-ups off the shelf without it having some sort of water-soluble fluid in it, put in from the outside, there's egg albumin in a lot of hook baits, that means it's not soluble, so what you smell in your hand, that's only for you. The fish can't detect it. So these are all important factors. That's why I even soak my foam and all the plastic soap. So there's something bitten in there. And then the hook link was cut blend coated braid, but then look at this. It's a very small hook bait. That's probably no more than 10 mil, but that's a size 2 hook, then a big long legs a liner, because I wanted to make sure the very first, if it's the only time a hook and bait goes in the fish's mouth, I've got half a chance. And it's a very vicious setup. So after, and of course the magic twigs on it, so we don't even need to say that now, it's like wearing a pair of underpants. So if we roll on now, I kind of knew after watching this, this is the real life vloggy footage in my hands, but now if you watch it here, you see the little snail just sitting up off the deck. And look, watch this hook flick, can you all see? You see that really? The shock of not knowing, because the other ones we're watching live, just random shot of some paste, but there's some close-ups of what it was. And I think it goes, I think in a minute this footage goes and shows the drama unfold. But this was in a really tricky, difficult situation, and they were barely touching the bottom. So we had to really, get everything so precise. And to be honest with you, I don't think, on this particular trip, with the underwater cameras, if I didn't have the underwater footage to look back on, I don't think I would have caught that fish. I actually don't think if I was just there, because they were touching down so gently, and that little bit of balancing of the hook bait, going really small, but then still a massive hook, was the difference. So the next video, what's that one? What does that one say? I think this is the one about, so the day Dylan came down, I think. Let me have a look, one sec. Yeah, it is Grenville, right, yeah, I think it is the, yeah, play it, it is a Grenville clip. All right, okay, so pause it there. So this is now, we're now into the second episode, you'll see. This is at Grenville, we call it the Lake of Dreams. This is where you came, Dylan. You came a few days after we had this happen. But this is now a completely different situation. We went to a lake, Grenville, which is so famous, and to be honest with you, every time I fish there, I like to use big, tall pop-ups, yeah? Really high, proud pop-ups, because the fish are big, lots of them can come in your swim. You can have a lot of issues if you don't use a pop-up, which you're going to see shortly after. So this is Bobby's spot. He's got a snowman on, and we're now on live cameras. So I think this is the right clip. If you play it, look at this. Oh, go straight to your mate. No, one on mine. Oh my God. There's that haircut. This one's going to what? No, to the right. Oh my God. So I was you. If you pause it there, you'll only just see. Look, I've got this really big pop-up on. Bobby's got a snowman on. Okay, nothing in between. Okay, so none of us have got, say, like a mini pop-up on. It was all I had a big hinge stiff rig on, which is so good at Grenville. Bobby's got a snowman on. And this was some of the, in all the years of doing underwater filming, this is some of the best footage I've ever seen unfold. And you've got to think most of these fish are 35 to 55, 60 pound that are coming in. But it was a, yeah, play on. You can see the pace throughout my leg that I love.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
This is my pop. I think you can see the pop-up.
Surely one's gonna. They've got my camera is just full of carp. It's an aquarium. This is the most epic underwater footage I've ever watched unfold in front of me. This is just.
Pause it there. Who thinks we end up catching on this day? Oh, that's not much of a vote of confidence. Steve Briggs didn't even put his hand up. Come on, Steve. Big thumbs down. Why do you think we didn't catch that day? Because I'm showing you the clip. Come on, you're not very interactive. You've got a GoPro belt on, like you're here from police interceptors. Hey?
Yeah, I am.
Why do you think we didn't catch that day? Someone must have an answer. What? Too much bait. Right, okay. I hope Bobby Zamora's here tomorrow so you can listen to that answer. So he doesn't think anything exists as too much bait. Anyone else with an answer?
I was looking for the in between. You was on the bottom or you was too high up. I was looking for that in between level.
Frustrating, isn't it?
It is
so you're saying this gentleman said it was either too floppy or too hard. Did you say nothing in between?
Exactly that, mate.
What are you all laughing at? What are you all laughing at? What? So it was too. What were you saying? Too floppy. No, what?
So you fishing on the bottom.
Yeah, no, he's saying. I got it. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Bobby was always going. Also, Bobby's hook bait was quite big. Bobby went with like an 18mm bottom bait and almost a 16mm pop-up snowman. Probably a bit too big. I had still a small pop-up, but a real high pop-up, and there was nothing in between. So when they did come in, but this is the interesting thing. So with all this technology, with glasses that can film you at a show, and all the underwater cameras and divers, the fish, in every given situation, I see them change how they behave and what they eat. Honestly, sometimes by the hour, things can change. Or, there was about 2 hours before it was fish soup in front of the camera, Bobby and Luke were ready to go going somewhere else. They just didn't think the fish were going to turn up, and suddenly, literally, it was like London buses. They just flooded in from nowhere. So yeah, so it's unbelievable. So yeah, if you play on, you're absolutely right. We catch nothing that day. Well done, Steve.
Everything we dreamt of is unfolding before us.
We really thought. I thought it was a matter of time. That's that paste on the lead. I love it. It's so soluble, you know.
Look at that.
Okay, so we've had that. Now, I think this is the. What does that one say? This is the. Oh yeah, okay. Who thinks we catch the British record in this series? Steve? Who thinks we catch the British record in this series? Just kept it quiet.
I think you do.
What? I couldn't keep it quiet. Steve, bloody hell, this is terrible. You're right. Or are you? Maybe we were sworn to secrecy. Well, okay, now Dylan, this is your day. Who thinks they've ever wound in too early, or just if they left it out another few minutes, they would have caught something bigger or big or big. It's the most uninteractive audience ever. Right, let's have some hands. Yeah, come on. Or thumbs down. Who thinks they always leave it out just the right amount of time and winds in at the right time? How many fish? Even Steve Briggs can't put his hand up. What's that? Right, okay, so before I go on, now Grenville, we went there to film this TV series because we genuinely believe there was a big chance of there being the British record carp in there. Now, there's about, I think, something between 1,500 to 2,000 carp in there, don't hold me to the number. There's a lot over 30, a lot over 40, a lot over 50, good few 60s, and possibly what we thought would be a fish over 70 pounds. Now, the likelihood in 70 acres of even seeing it on camera would be very little, I thought. But if we did, great, you get the footage. Now, the thing is with them spy cams, you can't watch it like, it's not live, you're just going with your gut. It's almost like real fishing. So, Dylan, when you came down, we were having to move and we were chasing them, weren't we? And you didn't know this, as I've already told about 27 times, but anyway, we're fishing, we've moved spot, we've kept the live cameras where they are. Play this out.
Fingers crossed, it gets us a bite, and hopefully very, very soon.
So Bobby's just put his rod back out in a new swim, moved again. This is me scoping another area with a live scope. Bobby's just wound in. This is when you were there, Dylan, right? Pause. Right, okay. So Dylan, we end up seeing this footage when we go move to a new swim, right? I'll show you, but play this on now from here. This is Bobby's spot, by the way. 5 minutes before he wound in. Ready? Pause. That was one of his last previous captures about 3 years before. And if you play it, you'll see the marking basically on the head. Here, there. I think that's it. Is that Ian Bailey? Yeah, that is Ian. So that marking there is one of the real big ones, which sadly now found out passed away. But that fish was feeding on Bobby. We had seen signs of fish that morning, but as the session was progressing and the desperation was setting in more, we were becoming more and more, let's say, nervy and moving quicker. And you came at literally the worst day. Morale was low, right? Let me go down to a live visitor that came on set. How was morale?
Bad.
Was I grumpy?
Yeah.
I'm not like happy like I was now.
Yeah, you were definitely
We were under pressure, we were there, we really wanted to catch that big fish. But we wouldn't have wound in if we'd seen that, would we? No, I don't think anyone would have wound in. So you play on here, you can see it. This is this gill raker, as I was saying. Look at that. And then if you it plays on here, you see the enormity of this carp. Look at the size of this thing. And Bobby's hook bait's in there somewhere. Go on.
Between that photo.
Yeah, hang on. What's in these?
Between that photo there and then when the fish actually cleared up once Bobby had removed his bait.
Yeah.
What was the time difference? So how big? It was 65 in the photo. What we're saying it is when it's clearing off the bar.
All right.
Oh, how big?
Roughly.
Oh, right. So, well, that fish hadn't been caught. I think it was last quarter, that sort of 65-ish weight. Yeah. So it could have been. It was a couple of. It was the perfect time as well. May. That was, I think, was a December capture. So it would have been, and that was pre-spawning. We were there as well. So I don't know, mate. And it's a male. It was a male fish as well. So that fish had steadily grown. So it could have been anything between 64 to 70 pounds. I don't know. It's big. I mean, I've learned to judge them on those cameras. And when a head and half a body still takes up 3/4 of the screen, moving away from you, you know it's pretty big. So it was definitely a 60 pound, a UK 60, and that was going on five. That fish was basically had fed, and that clip was 5 minutes before Bobby wound in to move swim. So So that really is the reason we've done this series. That is the fine lines between success and failure. You could be so close and you would never know. You'd never, none of you would, you know, unless you've got underwater cameras there, or we all had underwater cameras everywhere we go, you'd never know. It's amazing. What are we on to now? What's it? Give us a shout. It doesn't say, I'll know the clip. Oh, I know what the clip is. Go on. Pause. All right, okay. So the big pop-ups I showed you before that weren't working. Now, this particular day, this is Super Sunday, the last day of the football season. Bobby's left the lake. Rui's on the other side of the lake fishing. I've ended up being on the spy cams, on the live cameras, check-in. And I think something's not right. So we've gone with Luke the diver to start diving where we baited in long-range spots off the back of islands. Luke's diving down, there's all old baits still there. And the wind is hacking the complete opposite end to where we're actually base camp. So I decide, because Grenville, you don't normally have a rowing boat or a live scope, but because we're there to make a research film and an underwater series, we've got all the tech in the world to explore and look. So it turns out they're on this wind. I slide in, I put on a bright squid goo pop-up on a chods away, just a simple ready-tied chod rig from ours, magic wand, paste wrapped around the lead and a handful of bait. Luke takes it out. If you watch this, play that. In there, I was there, no more than 10 minutes and I was into a fish, right? After, and we're off the underwater mark. This is the, there's Rue, you can see him over that side. So the rig goes back out, right? So everything's back. Pause it there. Yeah, there's the thumbs up. Now, right. So everything's pucker. I've got in. The fish, you'll see in a second. There were so many fish in this area. Yeah, they were everywhere. But there's quite a lot of weed. And in a deep lake, you get a lot of undertow. And with undertow, when there's weed, it moves around, okay? And the other thing is, on a lake like Grenville, the fish are massive. And they don't just come in ones and twos. If they do come in, there could be 6 or 7 of them. And a 45-pound carp can move a lot of stuff on the bottom very easily. So those who love solid bags and think they're fishing with a solid bag, well, a bream will fart a solid bag out of the way pretty quickly, which is why I've always got paste around my lead now. Because it's become a real thing, especially if I use a boat. I'd be stupid not to do that. So it's complete soluble attraction near the hook bait. But the one thing, even with this pop-up rig and a diver, he's put it back out. I don't want to do a bobby and wind in. And if you watch this, look at how many fish are showing on top of it. So one there, bosh, bosh. And I'm just sitting there, pause there. Right, before I'll show you, right. So I've gone in there, got a bite in 15 minutes. So naturally, they're showing exactly like they were, and I'm expecting a bite any second. And it's, in my match fishing days as a kid growing up, they used to call it sitting on your hands when you're quiver tipping. You sit on your hands because you're expecting it to happen, so you don't do anything. So if you keep playing on, now this is fascinating. Look at this. This is a bosh. Did you see that? That was fish. Fish feeding behind. Now look, they're trying to suck my pop-up through weed. So they can't get the hook in the mouth because it's now covered with weed. There's still weed on it here. Now look, another one comes and attempts to take it. Pause. Pause there. So this, I was sitting there, so I'm sitting there for nearly 2 hours with fish lumping out. And when I look back, I think, you absolute idiot. Because on this lake now, I've learned, if you think you should have got a bite, you generally should have. And if there's loads of fish showing on your spot, and you've caught on 2 of your rods and not on the other one, and they're all on the same spot, there is definitely something wrong with the other rod. And it could be as simple as that, and it's incredible. This basically went on for so long that I wasted the... Keep playing. I still can't believe it because I thought I'd sussed it, got a bite quickly, and I just couldn't know what happened. Play it back again, that little bit of weed, because it's so fascinating. I want to see that. It's probably probably the most fascinating thing I saw that taught me is that just before that, come back, you watch this, and Matt, these are big fish, and that's why I tell all the anglers now that go on Grenville, after seeing, oh, it's before that, keep coming before if you can, see, not hot. I tell anglers that go on Grenville now, I'm like, it's not even worth putting a whapper on. It's definitely not worth it. Because these size of fish, I mean, I know Jacqueline from Euroac was here, she's in the crowd, yeah, but they've got monstrous carp there. I mean, if they had, I don't think, I've never been there, but there's no weed in there, but if there was, these ginormous fish, imagine what a 100-pounder would do, you know, they've got multiple 100-pounders, they would move so much around in your swim, and unless you're busy, or you've got a diver, you would never know. And that's why if you see fish showing, or you think, oh, I dare not cast it, well, you're better off recasting than sitting there with a blanket of weed that's been moved over by fish. So it's probably one of, that whole clip, I've got a whole long clip, and I watch it back, it's about, oh God, it's like 2 hours long, and that rig is buried in weed when it was hand-placed by a diver, perfectly clear. And all it took was a bit of loose weed drifting around the lake. So, what are you eating? Ritz crackers, cheeky. Right, what are we on to next? Paste on lead. Yeah, this is important. So everyone knows now one more class they're going to be doing bait, and we're going into that. But one of the big things is I always tell people it's evolutionary, not revolutionary. One of the things I've tried to teach people a lot. So I had when people saw me using boilie paste around my lead, I had loads of people going, that looks ridiculous, it looks hideous. I'm like, what you think it looks like with your eyes means nothing. I don't only care what the carp think underwater, I don't care what visually, you know, what you think of my haircut, or what you think of this, or whatever, or what you think of my shoelaces. Couldn't give the blindest damn. All I care about is pleasing the things I care about pleasing. And the paste around the lead has become a thing, because working with Underfishing Life a lot, and the Underfishing guys, they have said the only filming they ever do where they see a single hook bait and then that paste around the lead, they say you're the only angler we get the fish coming in, the gills are still going, even without anything around. Like, that's why now, and this is only happening, I've only started doing this in like the last year and a bit, if I fish a solid bag, I even wrap a little bit of boilie paste, and when our range comes out, it's actually got like a easy to mix boilie paste on the bank that you'll just add water to, or our you know, very soluble liquids that we've made. But the key thing is solubility, and by solubility I don't mean it breaking down to nothing. I'm talking about letting out a signal of food that is soluble underwater. So those of you who coat your baits in oil, that's like putting them in a big blanket, because either oil floats to the surface, fish, when they eat oil, without a doubt they eat pellets, they love them, they enjoy them, but until they digest it, they cannot detect it. It is not there, okay? And that is why boilie paste with soluble ingredients that fish can detect is so key. So that's why you always see it. And people are like, oh, you can, doesn't look like you can cast it out very far. Well, I mean, if you're dropping it, I can cast it 100 yards. And the method feeder, people have forgotten the method feeder in big carp fishing, but there's an Essex angler around here, Briggs, you'll know him, Martin Gibbinson, and an absolute terminator. He used to go around, all he used was the method. And the only difference is I use it on a leg clip system. He uses it on a traditional inline method feeder. And obviously you only need to look at match fishing to see how good method fishing is, you know. And that's it. If we play this out, you see it here, it's become a common thing. You've seen it all on my part. I'm not doing it for show. I'm doing it because it genuinely, like sometimes the fish want to eat my leads more than my hook bait.
This is insane. This is insane.
This is the paste test.
And even with old bait, you know, they're really stimulated, and it's all about putting little percentages in your favour. But if you're dropping with a boat, or you're not fishing that far out, or even if even if you're fishing really far out, just use a smaller lead, and instead of using instead of using a 3 ounce lead, use a 2 ounce lead and mould an ounce of paste around it.
Very close. He's on the run. Next one's a hook bait.
This is here we're at a hook bait, look, and they
blown the
bait out, and they love the paste. These are paste balls that I've made.
There you go. He loves that paste.
They really detect paste, you know.
So paste all over the gaff.
So if you So I always say to people, the only thing you need to be resilient in your swim is your hook bait, right? The rest of it needs to be digestible and really soluble, because they are the things they know, they're the things they recognise. And I'll argue with anyone, you know, my bait theories are based on science and what happens underwater, and some of the stuff you'll read back that we've learned to believe growing up is, I don't know, I don't have a word to describe it because it's nonsense, you know. You know, things like coating our loose, I've done it, I've coated my loose feed oil in oil, yeah, and like the slick coming up, but that is all it is, the slick coming up, you know. I even have sometimes, I have a spod mix with oil on as a slick symbol, and then a spod mix without any oil on, that fish will recognise because I haven't put a big, you know, big insoluble coating on it. So the paste thing, if you've not used it in your fishing, honestly, if you use solid bags, put a little bit of boilie paste around, and you will see a big difference. You know, it will mean you've got bait there for longer. If fish come in and disturb it, there'll be residue there for longer. And you can be a little bit more lazy knowing you've got that food signal singing for you that bit longer. Next one. Bobby Spycam. All right, yeah. Who said about the too much bait? All right, okay. Here we go. Bobby Spycam.
It's unbelievable.
So Bobby Zamora loves a lot of bait. So let's make this up.
Come in, hoover up a few bits of bait, and then shoot off. It's so often so close, and it makes you think: do I need to put that much bait out? Am I trying to set just a little tiny trap, or am I just going to play the waiting game? Big bed of bait, and this big pack will eventually come across it. Unfortunately, we don't fish at night. I'm pretty sure they would have taken my bait. Great to see him. So close. Oh, that come so close. I am relieved though that none of them have taken my hook bait in their mouth and got away with it. So there's a positive out of all of this for sure. My rigs haven't been done. They just haven't been selected yet.
Who thinks more bait was the answer there? I keep going to Briggsy. I know Briggsy likes to sit quiet. Do you think more bait would have done it there?
No.
You need to do more underwater filming, mate. Like, well, Bobby's here tomorrow. So anyone else coming tomorrow? Or just one day?
Just one day.
No, yeah, just one day. That's fine. So that particular situation, that's a spy cam one where you're looking back in hindsight. Bobby's convinced if you put more bait out, that maybe they would have eaten more. Or maybe the hook bait looked quite big, did you think? Looked big, didn't it? Loves a big hook bait. But I'll talk to Bobby about it tomorrow. Next clip, we're on. Oh yeah, okay. Who likes banter on TV?
Love it.
Right. Did anyone see the social thing this week with Bobby Zamora's 2 caps? 2 England caps? No? No one saw it? You did, yeah. Right, okay. So obviously I call Bobby he had a very good career, but obviously on television I joke about what an average footballer he was. So this is just a little bit of sense that away from it, we do have a bit of a laugh. And we only just finished filming the interviews for the new series this week, as it's in the climax of the post-production of the show. But yeah, if you watch this,
armed footballers not allowed.
I tend to try to entertain myself sometimes, because I'm there for a long time away from my family. So this is one of these moments I lose myself in my own bad humour.
They get done for betting, don't they? Can you bet on yourself? I know.
Where
Unless
you
it's in
at?
football.
Oh, it's debatable if you ever were.
Oh, yeah. What, if this is football?
No, if you no, it's just Bant's going to punch me in a minute. I better start putting my mouth guard in. 15, 25, great Bants. It gets better, I promise.
Bobby football.
About Bobby's extremely average football career. It wasn't average. Who would be scared to say that? Manager. Oh, if I had no money. We tried to get you on a free transfer. Oh, this is, oh God, what's happened to me? And one cap for England. Oh, well, I'm making myself right. It's not even funny.
Correction, Ali. Not one, mate. It's two.
He did. I think I know a lot about football, and I thought I got that right, but he did actually have 2 caps for England, and that last bit was only filmed on Monday, so that's how chaotic it is. But yeah, there's some of those moments. Who would be any hammers here? Any irons? Right, okay, yeah. He didn't do too well for West Ham, did he? No comment. I bet you wouldn't have the bottles like that because we hadn't caught much at that point, as you can tell. You'd be scared of a wallop, wouldn't you? Yeah. Yeah. No, he puts up with me. To be fair, we get to it. Last one. All right. So here we go. So the series I've teased you enough. The brand new series is going to be coming to ITV, and also we're making an extended cut for YouTube, and it'll be out. We believe the TX day will be April the 15th on ITV. So make sure you put that in your diary. I know that's going to be 9 o'clock, and then they'll do a repeat at 8 o'clock 2 days later. But we do 4 different episodes at 3 different venues. And 2 of them finish at Ictus in the south of France, which you've just seen a couple of clips there. And this is a good way to end it, because Ictus is fantastic. There's massive carp in there. There's koi carp in there. Sturgeon. It's a little bit chaotic. It's where we did the finale last ground fishing adventure, but on the different lake on the complex. So this is good. This gives you a little taste of what you've got to come to your screens. And it's a big part of our vision for the future, to keep growing the sport, keep telly coming on, get as many youngsters coming into the sport, like Dylan, who's lost concentration now, so I'm boring him to death. Go on, let's play this one. Oh, good line. Dip down, you little monkey. Oh, go on, that's the biggest fish so far. That's the biggest one in the swim. Bobby Zamora, that's a monster. Turn, come on, man. Turn. Oh my God. Who's going to be watching this on telly? It has gone radio. You will watch it? I hope so. Everywhere. We've lost a bit of fish. Shut up, Jamie. You didn't even put your hand up, Jamie. Oh, fight! Touch your mate. 2 points. Look at the colours. This is incredible. 2 points. At the same time. Oh, mate, it's fish soup now, mate. This is fish soup. You're about to get quiet. Magic wands, magic wand. Oh, yeah, Ghosty, you've nailed it. Yeah, yes, Ghosty, it's a Ghosty. Get it in there, visit the day, night. There you go, April the 15th, ITV4, a brand new series of content. Underwater ground fishing adventure. Thank you, everyone. Safe journey home. God bless.
There should have been a slip in there, but I'll say the most important
Yeah, good, you? It's quite warm, that's what I need.
Yeah, they're quite a cool little idea, aren't they? So basically we've got 3 settings on it, that's the lowest setting. And then you take it to green, which is medium, and red it gets really warm.
Do you put your own?
So So yeah, basically you get any power pack will work, just plug it in. You can fit the bigger like Ridge Monkey type ones in there, bigger Fox ones and stuff. So yeah, it's a pretty good product to be honest.
Yeah.
Ideal for this time of year. So
yeah, definitely. Yeah, good, you?
Yeah.
Thank you, Rob. And then Rob, be back again. After weeks. Go away!
I've managed to keep this one for then.
That's alright.
So yeah, from that, just take, you go to the lake and you know that there is a lot of people you have to consider. You don't really want to go alone. And if you put things like oils out, even if you don't really want to use the oil, you want to use the oil, you want to use the oil, so you know there are reasons where absolutely large well.
Sorry, mate. That's alright.
So yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah, it's really hot summer. Don't start it. Hopefully you have a good cut.
It's really easy to assume with PVA that it's going to melt. Even things like PVA bags, solid bags, it's like sure worth actually checking them. The longer and longer you pass them, the less likely it is to melt properly. Say you have that phone set on this rig for 4 hours, and the rig is suspended at the bottom, it's not going to back up like that. It's only going to take slightly. Do these things at home, just make sure you see it hits the surface, you know it's going to rip, because that's 30 degrees doing that trick. You won't get a better time of year for PVA to melt than it will melt. Oh, the birds are really problem. Now, we've all had it. You put in hot food on this spot, and after nice note.
And this freeze or?
4 ounces.
4 ounces.
We've run out of freeze.
Yeah.
We've only got 2 ounces and 4 ounces. These are 3 ounces.
I need four or above.
Yeah, these are all 4 at the back.
This is probably
3.5.
I'll think about it. These ones? 5.
How much are they singly? So they're singly, they're £7. You can mix and match those in with it.
not like that. Reset perfectly. Yeah, reset perfectly. Like that. Everything else put up. You know, the birds are eating carp in this place all the time. They're learning all the time what carp is eating, what we take up there. Sure, at the end, although you eat lots of stuff like loaves and meat and stuff like that,
Sorry.
Oh yeah, there it is. It's 3 piece.
How about you? That's all right.
I've not even left the stand today.
Don Bosch, once we recorded and that was over. I've seen nothing about the show. Yeah. Like a full drink. I use that box up, that's all I'm using. It gets hot there.
I'll be honest with you, I'm
That's why we wanted the other side, wasn't it?
Quite tight as well, can't they? So they sat together like
I think the only thing I think.
Yeah, but the wasps.
I think he might have.
You looking for anything in particular?
Oh, just these ones.
Just those two?
Yeah, how much they are?
So on their own, the kickers are £4 each. There is a deal where you can get two of them, one of them, and one of them for £20.
I'll just take these two.
Yeah.
Thanks.
If it's
just walk down there. Yeah. Is that a zig line? Do you have a
zig line,
yeah.
yes.
How much they are? Yeah, it smells nice.
Yeah. Split it open. When you open one up,
This one?
yeah, it's a bit sweeter inside. You can start smelling the mussel on it. Not touching everything.
Not bad.
That's nice.
That's a sweet one, yeah?
It's a nut one.
Yeah, I thought so.
What is it for? How many? Oh. Is that 4?
Sorry.
No, I can't these pockets. I'm not using my antenna. No, when I get my antenna. Yeah, I'm just joking. Wait, I'll pay for these now. Free, do I get the secures or do I get this?
Half price, 750.
him, he's doing the passes. Oh, yeah. He might know, like,
It's all very good at getting them out, spraying that on, putting that on. There's a liquid. As soon as you put it in the water, it's a liquid, it's a liquid.
Preferred silt or what's your favourite fish over?
normally where it's crossing over between the two, if I can find it. They all catch like cold. They've all got different colours. So what it's not Italian, it's the most important thing is being right or white or an orange. And the best angle is into their books. Right, you can find it.
And if it's only like a yellow Mars bar that made you well, you soon stop eating yellow Mars bar. It's just common sense. So that's clever, right?
Have you seen them up here?
There is.
It might be long for old NGT or whatever.
the same as this, so it's got a bit of them ropes and lines in it. Let's go to the rock.
Ben just go upside down.
Fancy go that way?
This is massive.
Yeah. So the owner of Castaway, when he fishes the River Trent, he uses bags like that for the barbel.
Big.
If you're fishing off a boat, you chuck that off the side, couldn't you?
What a waste of PV if you're fishing from the back.
Of England in 1986, and I fished it virtually every year since then, so over 30 years of fishing Cassian. And the problem these days is you can only day fish. You know, in the good old days you could night fish and everything, but you can only day fish now, which means you have to find somewhere to stay at night, because you have to come off the lake. And we found this place, and there was a French guy advertising this. Now, it's gone now, so it's no good asking me about this afterwards. But it was in the perfect place on the lake. And that big white thing behind, that's like one of those tents what you see in the desert, a yurt. And we was able to stop in there. It was very cheap, and he was doing it a bit undercover, just a bit cash in hand. And he's been stopped now. I think the police went in there and took everything down. But at the time, it was a perfect place to stay. I should just say, all these here are my German friends. I've met at Cassian and places in France over the years, loads of friends. And these are all German guys. And the guy second from the left, I met him on Cassian when he was 18 years old. And we've stayed in touch ever since, and you know, we're very good friends. And so we meet up every year somewhere. It was a lovely place, swimming pool and everything. But the best thing about it, looking out, it was right above Cassian. You know, that if you're going to day fish somewhere, what a perfect place to stay. You know, you can literally just overlook the lake. This is the North Arm. Cassian's a big lake, split into 3 sections, the North, the South and the West Arms. It's like a star shape. And this is the North Arm, which is the biggest part of the lake. And it's a lovely part of it. It's the most peaceful bit of the whole lake, and it's my favourite bit. The problem with Cassian, there's 2 reasons for including Cassian. One, if you saw any of NASH TV stuff, Ollie Davis did a Cassian video, just been uploaded this week. And funny enough, where he ended up catching from is where I ended up catching from on this trip, so that sort of spurred me on to put this in, really. But you never know where they're going to be, that's the problem. There was another Cassian video that someone put up this week, and I don't know the guy. But for the first 3 days, they were rowing around the lake, and well, basically they were looking for fish showing. And he said, well, we've rowed round all of the lake for 3 days, haven't seen the fish anywhere. We don't. On Cassian, you don't. It's not how it works. And basically, it's always trial and error, which makes it really hard work because it's a big lake and you don't see the fish. All I ever do is try places. If they work, good. If they don't work, you have to try somewhere else. So this is like the central area of the lake. And you know, as you can see, it's a holiday lake as well as fishing, so you get all sorts during the day there. But you know, tried the day here, caught nothing. So all you do is keep moving on, trying different places. But funny enough, this is still looking down from our little camping place. And where those yellow buoys are, that's the entrance to the barrage, and it's out of bounds to fish beyond that. But because it's out of bounds there, you know, the fish love to go in there. And even though we've been all around the lake, we ended up just there. That was where we found them, just below where we was camped. So we spent probably five days looking around, and the fish were right in front of us. That's been one of my German mates just looking around, doing a bit of sort of recce work, and yeah, we found them just in front of us. You can sort of see a bit of excitement there. We knew we had found fish. And even though I fished it for 30 years, this actual swim we moved into it. It's the first time I've ever fished it. I know it's a good swim, but most of the times there's German guys in there and you can't get in there, which is, you know, one of the reasons I never fished it so much. But yeah, on this occasion, you know, the good thing about day fishing at Cassian is not as many people there as what there used to be. You know, sometimes in the old night fishing days, it used to be so busy, biggies everywhere. But nowadays, it's harder, you know, it's hard doing days, but you know, it is what you get. The obvious place to fish was by the buoys to the out of bounds, but there's only so much room. You know, you get a shelf going off of each point either side. It's about 100 foot in the middle there, literally 100 foot. Out in front, just to the right there, it's about 140 foot. So, you know, you don't want to fish in that, so it limits the space you've got, which is why we're only using 2 rods each. That's me mate Mike's rods, my 2 little scopes there. Never use much bait at Cassian. You know, people think because it's a big lake, there's a lot of fish in there, a lot of catfish as well. But the trouble is, you put big beds of bait out and you attract the catfish. That's one thing that always happens. And when you're only day fishing, you're lessening your chances of getting a bite. It's funny, Ali was talking about big beds of bait and, you know, how it can be more difficult to get a bite sometimes. And on Cassian, I've always done it 10 to 15 baits around each hook bait, and that's literally it. But, you know, hard baits, there's a lot of crayfish in there, there's a lot of little fish, and you want to, even though you're only there for a day, you want to keep your hook baits out there as long as possible, and that's the best way of doing it, make them as hard as possible, and as big, you know, 24 mirrors as well. Sure enough, when I said to Ollie was struggling. He said to me, I've been on here like 9 or 10 days or whatever. I can't find the fish, I can't get on them. The French guys are catching them at night, and I'm only day fishing. And I did say to him, don't worry, like, when you find the fish, when you actually drop on them, you'll catch them. It's just a matter of whether you can find them. And he moved into this swim. In the last 2 days, we had 8 or 10 fish, and it's exactly what happened to us. The same swim, and in the last, we was only there 6 days, I think. In the last 2 days, we had about 10 or 12 fish. And when you're on them, you can catch them. It can seem so hard sometimes, and you feel like you're never going to catch one, and then all of a sudden, you drop on them, and that's what happens, you catch them. And we all caught fish. I mean, that guy I'm with there, Mike, he's caught most of the big fish in the past. You know, anyone who sort of knows the famous Cassian carp of the past, Half Moon, the Big Leather, Bernadette, he's caught all of them. He's one of the best Cassian anglers of all time, really. But probably in England, we probably don't know that much about him. But, you know, I do because I've known him so many years. So, there's a lake north of Cassian that probably less people have heard of. It's much bigger. You can see the name of it on there, Carp. And it's about 6,000 acres, so it's a big one. It's only got about 500 carp in there. So that's why not many people have heard of it. You know, it's a massive great bit of water with not many fish. But it's just north of Cassian, and we all wanted to go and fish another lake after Cassian. We'd had enough of Cassian, and we all decided on that one. The reason I wanted to go back there, that's me, believe it or not, about 35 years ago. And the very first time I went abroad with Joan, my wife Joan, who we fish most places together these days, that was the first trip I ever went on with Joan, and that was a Nissan Micra. And, you know, it's amazing that we could get everything for a 2-week trip in that. You know, nowadays we've got a transporter and that's still full up, can't fit everything in. But we've got everything for 2 weeks in there. But I never caught anything at Carp, and I always said that one day I want to go back there and give it another go. And this was a chance, so it was 30 years between trips. Typical scene in the south of France when you get the fires, you get the fire planes landing on the lake. They take the water out of the lake, actually land, scoop up the water, and go and put the fires out. It's quite a common sight in South France, but it's always amazing to see. It's another one where you're not allowed to night fish, but we were sneaking the nights. It was okay. We actually had the guards round in the end, and they said, "Are you fishing the night?" So we said, "Yeah," and it was okay about it because there weren't many of us. But I built a little wall there because there was a guy on the campsite. My mate set up at the campsite first of all. The guy come round and he threw him off. He said, "You know, you're not allowed to fish here. You can't night fish." And he said, "Whose is that boat up there?" Pointing at mine. It was about 200 yards away. And he said, "Oh, that's my friend." And he said, "Well, tell him he can't stay there." So I built a little wall there to sort of hide my boat. And it worked actually. He didn't know we was there because he couldn't see it. Yeah, I love the wildlife. You know, wherever we go, we always, especially on the wild lakes, the big open waters, you see all sorts of things turn up. And James said to me one day, she said, "What's that coming across the lake? Is it like a bird or something?" You could just see this black thing. And it got out beside us, and it was a deer. You know, it swam right across the lake, just got out beside us. But that's what I love about them big lakes. You see things like that. And the other thing, you know, it's memorable for me. It'd be hard to sort of get the atmosphere across, but at night, all the tourists, all the holiday makers, everyone else had gone home. And we was all alone on this bank, but on the other bank you could just see those little lights. And this was July time, and there was little bars, there was little restaurants, and everyone was sort of there in the evening enjoying themselves. You could hear people having a good time, having a few drinks, having a few laughs. And it was a real holiday atmosphere. It was a lovely sort of time to just sit back there and listen to all this going on. And like I say, we was all alone on this bank. It was, yeah, some of the fishing on those big waters is so atmospheric, and that was one of those times. You know, as soon as I look at that picture, it takes me back to like a time and a place. a bit of carpy weather. You know, the thing with those lakes, you often need a bit of carpy weather to get the fish going. You get lots of those very sunny, sort of still days, and not much is happening. And then you get those big storm clouds, looks like a great tail wafting over the sky or something. But a bit of breeze, bit of wind, and you need that on those big lakes sometimes. And there we go. That was, it's not a monster, it's a nice fish, not far off, £40, but that's one of the best French carp I've ever caught, because there's 500 fish in 6,000 acres. And my mate has caught some there, my mate Mike, but he said, you never catch a fish on this lake by mistake. If you catch one out of there, you've done well. And so that was a fish I was really, really pleased with. One of my best ones, that is. Yeah, and sort of sticking with the big lake theme, really, across France, there's so many waters to go at, so many big waters. And this one, whereas St. Croix and Cassian are sort of southeast France, this one is southwest. It's one of the real big ones. Biscarrosse, it's called. And again, it's about 9,000 acres. Quite shallow though, you know, so you can imagine the problems you've got. 9,000 acres, there's fish out there somewhere, you know, God knows where. But you are allowed to night fish there, which is one of the great things about it. At least you can go there. There's quite big night areas. And there's loads of lovely old carp in there, if you can find them. This was one place where, well, you can see the road coming down there. This is one place we found we could actually park beyond the swim. There's not many of those places. Some areas you'd have to get in the boat and go to them. But yeah, there we have the van just behind us. You can see the problems we've got. This is a great big fence coming out into the lake, big reed bed to the left there. And so it's a bit awkward, but you can also see like the bottom of the lake there. You can see how sort of shallow it is. Yeah, so you can see where the rods are, and I had to have them out there just to sort of get the angle to get the lines out of the lake, because you could go out 150 metres, 200 metres, and it'd be 4, 5, 6 foot deep, and really you wanted to get as deep as possible, which was about 9 or 10 foot. Well, that was about 350 metres out. So, you know, it's quite a bit of hard work, and it's not, these big waters, they're never straightforward fishing. It's never easy stuff, you know, it's how much you're prepared to put into it. But managed to drop on a few. This was literally the first night. I had 3 bites the first night. One fell off, and I had this typical old wildy looking common. You know, this typical wild summer fish, really. The best weights are always in the winter or spring. This one's midsummer, probably be a much bigger fish in the winter, but I was pleased to catch it. That's sort of the old original fish in the lake. And the other one I had was the complete opposite. This is one of the stock fish that have been introduced in recent years, and you know, thankfully they're putting fish in and looking towards the future. So, but you know, you can see how different they are, the old originals to the new stockies. But on a lake that size, when well, they could be miles away, the fish, they literally could, you know, it's just nice to catch them. The gear for fishing those sort of waters is so important. And I mean, years ago we used to have little outboards that sort of didn't have much power. And luckily, they've sort of got bigger and better over the years. And like NASH do one, they do a 45 and a 65-pound thrust now. And the 65 is just, I use it all the time now because, all right, it's got lots of power, but you don't have to use that power all the time. If you don't want it, you can just go down on 1 and 2 and poodle along. But if you're on a big lake and all of a sudden, you know, there's times when you need that power, and that 65 gives you that power when you're battling against winds and all that. That's the other thing which is come on in leaps and bounds. In the old days, I mean, years ago, we used to fish places like Shanticott, and my mates would be towing along another boat with about 10 batteries in it to last the trip, because you've got like 4 rods and you're going about 350 metres every time. If you're getting a few fish, you know, you're getting through batteries like no one's business. And you'd need them. But with this, I've got it down to 1 battery now. You know, and that's how I do it. That not only is it a really good battery, it's so powerful. Lithium batteries are a different league now to what we used to use. But it comes, or you can also buy from Volcans, the solar panel pack. And you get an app and everything to go on your phone, so you can see how much it's charging and all that. And even though I was using the boat in and out all the time for catfish, little fish, carp, if I was lucky enough, maybe 10, 15 times a day. But I was keeping the battery fully charged every day with that system. And that is different league when you're fishing those big waters and you need that power. Yeah, I've not talked about like the business much, like the carp fishing business, and it gets a lot of stick sometimes, the carp fishing business. You know, everyone says, oh, you just buy cheap gear from China and, you know, stick a big price on it. And, you know, this is something that, you know, working with NASH, I do get asked, because I fish abroad a lot, they ask for my advice, which is nice. You know, I like to be able to put my input. And this was one of the things I helped design. But it's taken over 3 years from just sort of designing that to actually getting out on the market. And all right, you think, well, what's so special about that? Well, anyone who's fished abroad or any sort of thing, we've used H-block markers. And when they said to me, we want to do like an H-block marker, you know, what can you sort of add to that? Well, the H-block markers, just the design of them, there's so many of them where I've let it unravel over the boat and it's too narrow and it gets caught on the side of the H, sinks out of sight and it's gone. I've lost it. I've lost loads like that. I've also found some like that other people have lost. And I just said, well, it needs to be like a different design, like an X, you know, so it's more open, so it don't tangle up. And the other thing is, you need some sort of little clip. You can see the little ball clips on that one. And in a strong wind, they unravel. Or when a fish goes through your marker when you're playing a fish, they unravel. And so that little clip, once it's got to the depth and its legs on the bottom, you just put it in the clip, holds it solid. And it's just a better design than the H-block. It's a similar sort of thing, but there's a fair bit of thought, a bit of planning and whatever, and a lot of time, you know, with samples coming backwards and forwards. But, you know, it gives you an idea maybe what the business is like, because people they always think that stuff is coming from China and it's, you know, we just bought that off the Chinese. Well, no, sometimes it takes a lot of hard work and time just to even get something like that. Yeah, anyway, back to the fishing. We started off with boilies. We always use boilies, don't we? The trouble is, on there was a lot of catfish in that lake. And if you put a lot of boilies out, you've got catfish. My mate Jim, who was next to me, he'd had one about £120, massive great big thing. And I had a couple. So we went to tigers, but the trouble is, most of us put tigers on a hair in a line, don't we? You know, we put 2 or 3 on the line, a corkball or something. And that was picking up roach. It was getting lots of small fish, lots of roach and rudd. And they were quite big, 3 or 4 pound, but you know, when you're fishing 300-400 yards out, it's a nuisance coming and going. That actually solved the problem, putting them in a ball of 4. And it's the only time I've done it. It's the first time I've done it, but it actually worked a treat. You know, it kept the catfish away because it wasn't boilies, and it kept the little fish away because they couldn't get that sort of ball of tigers in their mouth. So, yeah, it's just problem solving on the day. But that actually worked a treat, and it's a real nuisance when you're fishing that distance and you get a little drop back and you know there's a roach or a green or something like that on there, and you've got to go out all that way and re-drop it. So anything that helps is a big bonus, and that helped. Yeah, that was, didn't catch loads out of there, but it's not the sort of place where you catch loads. You know, I think I had 6 fish. My mate Jim never had one. He had catfish, but he never caught a carp. But that was part of a double take. That was a mid-40 common, and that one which was an upper 40. And even though it's a massive, great big lake, that you might not see a fish for weeks, you know, that one's certainly been bashed about a bit over the years. So, you know, that one's been out a few times. You can tell that. But yeah, I had that first one, went out in the boat, heard my other alarm go, and what can you do? You just had to let it go. And got the first one, come back, jumped in the boat for the second one. It was still on there, just gone in a weed bed. And so, yeah, that was nice. That was on there last night there, and a nice brace of 40s to finish up with. Anyway, English now, a bit of English stuff. And after we had COVID, we all remember COVID and how grim that was, really. It was horrible, wasn't it? But it stopped me sort of travelling away so much, so it was nice to actually concentrate on a bit of UK fishing for a change. Some of the waters that are really right on my doorstep, and I've even looked at them for years. The Horton complex is about 4 miles from my house, and I looked at them for about 25 years, you know, and it's amazing what you can have on your doorstep when you forget it's there. But this one is part of the Horton complex. You can fish it on a gold card or a silver card. The gold card has actually got too expensive for me. They put it up to about 2,300, and despite what everyone thinks, I don't make a lot of money in this game. Enough to go fishing, but it's a bit too much. I've actually gone down to a silver card, but it still means I can fish that one, which is the Island Lake. It's the biggest on the Horton complex. It's about 70 acres, very weedy, but you can use boats on there, which attracted me to it. And probably the difference is that a lot of the swims are actually on the islands. So instead of casting to the islands, you actually boat out and you fish from the islands. And that top bank, even though it's got swims on there, that's all out of bounds. There's no swims on there now, it's all out of bounds game. So you get on the islands, set up and fish across to what are now like snag swims on that far banks, you know, lines of trees. Unfortunately, I've done so much foreign fishing, taking me transporter and boats and all that abroad. It's so hard to cut your gear down. That's the problem. You know, you get so used to having all the comforts and everything with you. Massive great bed chair. I've cut that down to a scope bed chair now. But, you know, you do have to cut gear down sometimes. That was my first day on the Island Lake. I'm on the first of 3 islands. That's Island 2 next door, and there's another one beyond that. Didn't catch anything that first time, but the second time down, on the same island, I was in this room, they call it the All Alone, and the water was really clear. If you watch Ali's film, where they was all filming in clear water, and that's what this was like. It's very clear, but the fish were so spooked by everyone being out in boats that they just hid. And I don't know if that is going to work. No, don't matter anyway. If you see that line of reeds, there's a lighter green like overhanging tree at the end of it. And there was nothing out in front of me. I could go out there in the boat, there was nothing there. It was just, you could see the bottom, you see old beds of bait, and there was nothing. But under that tree, there were 3 fish. There was, well, basically a double, a 20, and a mid-30. And so, obviously, I put a rod as close as I could get it to there. I felt pretty sure I was going to catch one of them. And I caught the smallest one, which is pretty typical. But, you know, it was my first one, it was my first sort of real go at the island lake, and I just wanted to get off the mark. And, you know, at the time, to catch fish was all I wanted. So, you know, I was well pleased with that, even though the other 2 fish were bigger that I saw there. It just shows, to get the first one out of any lake is always nice, isn't it? That's in a swim called Spring Gates. I mean, there's so many lakes in the Colne Valley that have got Spring Gates swim because of Pete Springate fishing here in the past, and this is where he used to fish. You can see the old iron bridge in the middle of the picture there, and that's been there donkey's years, as long as I can remember. It's still the same one. But sometimes you can sit on that bridge, stand on that bridge, and watch the fish there. And that's one of the big fish in there. You know, they call that the two-tone mirror. It's a big one, getting up towards 50 pound. Not the biggest in there, but you know, when you're fishing Spring Gates, you go up on the bridge and you see that one there. You know you've got the right swim anyway. Whether you catch it or not, I never caught that fish. Yeah, I started off, I'd been fishing on Thorny Weir just before here, and I'd done pretty well. I caught the biggest fish in the nets, and I caught the most sought after one in Lake 3, which was next door, all on, as well as several others. You know, it was going pretty well, and they was all on little hinge rig pop-ups. So that's what I went on the island lake with. You know, I thought, well, that's obviously fish love the little hinge rig pop-ups, you know, little scope squid pop-up. It was doing the job. The problem, I was catching fish. Most weeks, I was doing 3 days a week down there because you're allowed to fish a swim for 3 days and then you have to move. So you can stay on the lake if you want, but you have to move through every 3 days. So what I ended up doing was a 3-day session every week, you know, getting a swim and do 3 days in it. And I was catching every week, really, but the problem was I wasn't getting amongst the big ones. There's some big fish in there, but I just wasn't finding them. You know, they're nice fish, don't get me wrong, that's a lovely old carp. You know, and that one's a little bit bigger, nice scaly one, you know, they're nice fish, but when it was continuously, week after week, getting that smaller stamp of fish, and when you know what's in there, I've seen some of those bigger ones, it just makes you sort of think about what you're doing. In the end, I got frustrated by catching those smaller fish. I thought, I've got to change something. So I started with a scope and squid, but I turned over to a slick D. Instead of a hinge rig pop-up, I turned over to a slick D, and with a snowman setup. It still wasn't a big bait, but it was more substantial than what I'd been using. Started using more pellet, more boilies around it, just to see what would happen really. You know, like, there's always answers to problems when you're fishing. You know, there's times when you'll be sitting on a lake and other people are catching and you're not. When they've got the answers right and you haven't, sort of thing. If you're on the fish and not catching, there's always reasons. And I was on the fish, catching fish, but I couldn't get the big ones. And this was a little swim called the Channel. It was like between, I'm on the island here, but just out of shot is the bank, so it's like a channel. That's actually Dave Lane's dog. I love animals, cats and dogs, whatever. And Laney always said to me, he said, you know, my dog doesn't like people. It never sort of, you know, he just growls at people, doesn't like them. He used to come and just sit with me in my bivvy all the time, you know, so he liked me anyway. But that swim there, it was a time when the fish were spawning. There was a few other swims shut, but that one was open. And to give you some idea how tough it could be on there, the swim I was in, this was the only catch from that swim the whole year. Like, I had a few fish. I ended up catching, I had 7 bites. Can't remember if I landed 5 or 6, but 7 bites out of there anyway. And after that, I mean, it got fished all through the year. There wasn't another fish caught out that swim all year. And it wasn't because I was so good or anything, you know, none of that. It was just right place at the right time. The fish were there, and the tactics were right. You know, the snowman did the job, and I had some nice, and they were bigger. They weren't monsters, but they were bigger. This one was £29, the other one was 26. So I'd gone from sort of doubles up to like high 20s, things like that. And the difference was really noticeable. So I knew I was on the right path, and it just shows you how tactics, even when you find the fish, you know, you work, do all that work, get on the fish, how the tactics, you know, can make such a difference. So all of this early fishing I've done have been, the car park's down this right-hand end, and most of it had all been down that area. Where are we? That's Springate Swim there. The first island, you're all alone, is sort of there. So most of the fishing I've done had all been down that end, which is the shallower end. But I started to look at the other end, the left-hand end of the lake, which is a lot quieter. I mean, you know, in 70 acres of water, you're quite spread out in there. It's quite nice to go up that other end and get away from everyone, basically. So there's a couple, they're sort of out of shot, the swim was down the bottom corner now, but that was where I started to look at. And the other thing, I thought, well, the snowmans have definitely worked. I started getting better fish. But I thought, well, what if I up the hook bait size even more? Now, the guys, at the start of the season when I went down there, all the guys I spoke to, all they talked about was little baits. Little tiny baits, little chewed down 15 millers. That was what they said they could get bites on and not much else. Well, I started to look at going the other way. And whatever anyone says, carp is a carp anywhere in the world. You know, I fished all over the world. And there's a tendency to think that English carp are so much more clever. And they're carp, just the same as every other carp. And I thought, well, why not just up the hook bait size? So that's what I did. Kept with the slip D rig. This wasn't the rig. This is actually, well, one I tied up this week just to get a picture of it. But that's the new long-shaped version of the claw, which is coming out. I wasn't using that at the time because it's just coming out now. But I went up to 20 mil and 18 little boilies. So from a little chewed down 15 miller, I've gone totally the other way, little hinge rig pop-ups to great big baits. And that was so out of keeping with what everyone else is doing because, you know, it's continental style basically. It's not English style really, is it? It's continental style fishing. Yeah, so that's the furthest swim right up the lake, that is. What you can see in front there, that's actually an island. And to the left, you can actually just see through the gap in the islands to the bank on the far side. But it just, there's so much water up there. And I sat in that swim all night and nothing happened. Never heard anything, never saw anything. So I had to lay in. Normally I was up early, I'd be up at sort of 4 o'clock in the morning, something like that. I had to lay in until about 7. And then all of a sudden I heard a fish jump. And where that a few little bits of weed are just out to me right there, I jumped up quick, looked out, and sure enough, I could see the ripples where it had just jumped. So I got in the boat and went out, just dropped a bait in the rings, in the bubbles that were still there, just dropped it where the fish had been. Just a few freebies, 5 or 6. And literally about 30 minutes later it hammered off. And that one was on the end, which was my first proper nice one from there. That was £37. And so I've gone from catching doubles through to low 20s, through to high 20s, and now I've got an upper 30. And, you know, all little things like that, they all build up through the year, and it's nice to work things out. Most of my trips are short trips where, you know, I have a week on the lake and that's it. 2 weeks and that's it for the year. So it's so good to actually get things working and see the difference they were making. Yeah, it was about that. I've fished on my own up until that point. It was about this time James started coming with me. And even though the swims are quite small on there for a bivvy, we started using the blockhouse. And it's amazing how it sort of fits in. Most swims are sort of quite square. They dig them out square. The blockhouse actually fits in quite nicely. So it's, you know, it is what it is. But it was perfect for us too. And people often ask me about the blockhouse, whether you fit 2 bed chairs in there. Well, yeah, you fit them in quite easy. So that was a nice, comfortable bivvy for both of us. It sort of meant I wasn't going to be as mobile. I do like to move around on the UK fishing as much as possible, get on the fish. That would sort of change things a bit, but yeah, where I caught that fish, that 37, previous week, I went back and this was the next swim down. And again, you know, the blockhouse is sort of squeezed in there. There's not much room, but there was fish out in front. I was getting loads of liners all the time. For about a day and a half, I was getting liners, and I couldn't work out. There's a lot of weed out there. You can't see it in this, but there's loads of weed out there. But little tiny clear spots, and I'd seen a fish show over one of these clear spots, so I left the bait on it. And I only got one take, but it was that one. That was just over £38, 38 and a quarter. And so, yeah, first time I'd taken Joan with me, and she's a bit of a lucky charm. I always catch better fish when she's with me for some reason. And, yeah, tactics, 2 fish on the bigger baits, 2 big 30s. Now there's a swim, the 2 swims I just talked about are sort of up the right hand side on that other bank there. I'm actually on the island now, in a swim called the Plateau. And I was on that island in the summer, and I was the only one there. There was one of the babies fishing right down on the first island, but miles away from me, and I was all on my own. So I thought I'd take a chance to have a little look around, find some spots. So I was out in my boat, looking around that buoy and all that, and he come flying up the lake, and he said, that's not your water in that swim, that's the Plateau swim next door. I said, well, I'm not fishing here, I'm just looking. Do you know what I mean? I just want to have a look around. He said, well, as long as you're not fishing there, but he said, it's not really your water. I thought, well, how are you meant to look at other spots and find stuff out? You know, I mean, I just wanted to have a look. And it was a bit of a strange one, but I did find some nice spots out there that were coming really handy. And I hadn't fished that Plateau swim at all until it was October time now. The leaves were all starting to turn, and I ended up in this Plateau swim. And of course, I already knew these little spots from what I'd found in the summer. Even though I got told off for it, but I had an idea where I was going to fish. You can actually, I don't know if you can see it. I can just see it where the white buoy is. Just out to the left, there's a little marker there, and that was on the clear spot. And there weren't many spots. Like I said, most of the lake was solid weed. There was a little spot out to the left there that was clear. There was that one out on the marker out there, and there was a little one to the right. Other than that, it was like near enough solid weed all the way out there. But on those 3 rods that were out there, I had one take on each of them over the next 2 sessions. So I did 2 sessions on there, 3 days at a time, so 6 days in all, and I had one take on each rod. And it was a boat job every time, you know, because the weed is so thick. That was the first one, and actually the smallest one, that was 29 pound. And a beautiful fish, proper old Colne Valley specials they are. And that was on the close rod. On the right hand rod, the following week, I had that one, which was 42 pound. And, you know, I wasn't catching loads of fish, but what a difference. I'd gone from those smaller ones to all of a sudden every fish was a big one. And it was all on the bigger baits. So I was fishing different swims. This was the 3rd different swim I'd fished using the bigger baits, but all producing bigger fish. And then finally on that one by the marker, by the buoy, yeah, got the big girl of the lake, which was Lloyd's. That one's has been captured over 60 pound 2 or 3 times, I think, and on this occasion it was 57. But it's the bigger of the lake, so you know it was what I was. I can't say it's what I was there for, but it was what I was hoping to catch all the time. You know, all the time. I'd seen that fish a few times, and it always dwarfed everything else. And I just hoped that I'd get a chance at catching it one time. And sure enough, in that plateau swim, I got my chance. And like I say, one take on each rod, 29, 42, and 57. And the thing was, all through that summer period, all through the spring, all through the summer, I've been catching fish. And the biggest one I caught was 29 pound. And when I changed up to the big baits, I carried on catching, and all the fish I caught in the last period of me fishing there, the smallest one was 29 pound. So what a difference, just through changing tactics, trying something, using the bigger baits, what no one else is doing. I've gone from catching all the smallest ones to some of the very biggest, including the biggest one in the lake. So, you know, that was a job done, really, and a mission completed. And anyone who's ever targeted a big fish and spent a bit of time fishing for it, I mean, like when I was on the Mere, it took 5 years to catch the black mirror. This one took a year. I went on there with that in mind because the first time Ollie Davis actually showed me around the lake, around the complex, and he said in that lake there's a 60 pounder in there, and I thought, well, that's where I want to fish in. I want to have a go for that. And so it took me a year, the best part of a year, and the feeling, that's the best feeling in the world, when you've targeted a fish like that. It's taken all that time, and then that realisation, the stress is gone because it's swimming away. You know, you've let it go safely, but you've caught it, you know, and it's the best feeling in the world. So, yeah, that's what I'm going to leave you with, I think. The best feeling in the world, catching your target fish, letting it go, and yeah, just thanks for sitting there and listening to it. Thank you very much.
It's difficult, isn't it?
Tom is going to sit next to me next week.
He's nice, Tom, isn't he?
15 hours.
He's really nice.
So yes, it's simplistic, and it's not just efficient, because you can say you could use it as camping, but it's all the specification of the operation.
I know in the old days, when it was like frequent, a lot of people used to fish on the shallow, but they just wait their mates all the way out.
Do you have 15 pound? Or just
What, have we got 10 and 12?
Yeah.
No, we didn't bring the 15 with us. We do it in a 15.
I know.
Yeah, sorry mate. Yeah,
I'll
it's always
take
a
this
struggle to know what to bring, you know?
Yeah. I think it's a £5.
Hey? £5?
Yeah.
Oh, even better.
Thanks.
Perfect.
Hi. What pellets are they?
Poppins.
Yeah, how?
Halibut pellets.
Halibut. How much they are?
For a fat, what size do you want?
8. We have 8.
£50.
50 pounds. Thanks.
No worries.
I love it smell. I love smell of them.
Hi.
Few bees, couple of wines.
You want to put the change in your pocket?
Hi.
4 for a tenner. We do microbarbed and barbless.
Whenever you sit there, you can't really think about stuff like that. Yeah, we do it.
95% muff.
What, you want them too, or you want some more? Yeah, I'll make top fish. We have got one.
Good to about 150 yards, wait around, general direction. Get money back guarantee if it doesn't work for you.
People come round, oh yeah, make a cup of tea, end up being a social guy.
You won't let me use it.
The way, you know, the way it's going at the moment, I'm excited about it. It's moved on a stage from, it was a little bit of craft to start with, and I started using an agency. Sorry.
We keep drops. There is an XL version of that coming out later in the summer, but that does fit the most. I'd say yes. So, do you know where I'm based? No, good. Right, yeah. That's for you. That's for you.
Sorry, man.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, thank you.
Have you not? Do what? You get the whole lake yourself. No, like you book on.
So all the blue ones in on the second shelf. Cash or card, mate?
And then there's Sprite.
Tight lines, gentlemen. Do you fish around here?
Where I fish normally, a size 4 and a size 2 is the best thing, but that's in Europe.
You know what? Mole on the top. You feel that mole back? The bait's underneath.
Yeah, just looking around.
No camera.
I just carry with my
Second bag. Second bag.
longer one and then leave half of it attached. Just leave it in the bag.
Top man. Thank you, mate.
Thank you.
That's a really big one.
I'll wind him up, I'll turn him up.